G'day guys, thanks for joining me today. I am starting off the week with something a little funny. I had somebody ask me if I could do something with buttons, and ironically I was halfway through doing this page and I hadn't even said anything about it. So what I'm doing to start off with is I bought a stack of embossing folders, and with that and they were all pre-loved, and in that there was a strip and it's different size and shaped buttons, and it's a CUTTLEBUG PROVO craft. Anyway, comes as a strip. I put it through my Spellbinders Platinum die cutting machine and created some strips. Now, I was at this point, I was recording. I didn't really know where this was going. I ended up breaking the embossing folder. I mean, it's only like 1 centimeter wide. So it was my fault because for some reason I sent it through backwards. I don't know how I did that, but anyway. So what I'm doing is I am using buttons. Now, I somehow ended up with quite the collection of buttons. I don't use them very often on a page, but as soon as I saw this embossing folder, I thought, you know what? I know what I want to do with it. It's just finding when I have the time to scrap the page, basically. So this is what I went ahead and did, and I used 3 photos, and they are, I think they were 2x3 photos, and absolutely adorable, of my middle child when she was a baby, and she was such a cutie. She's got such a beautiful smile, still does. So basically what I decided to do was, and I've been doing this a lot lately, just make my own background. Sometimes I lean on background like your pattern papers and all that sort of bizzo. And then there's sometimes I just feel like doing it myself. And I had this thought, it was weeks ago. It was easily 6 weeks ago. And I wanted to do this, and I thought to myself, I just have to find the time to do it. So what I wanted to do was put the embossing folder through, create the buttons. Then I wanted to go through and paint them all. Now, here I am. I have to tell you guys, wow. If you're not already following in my Facebook group, please do, because I gave everyone a really good laugh on the weekend, because I decided that I was going to finally commit to putting all my scrapbook pages that I've made, and the ones that I've already put through a layout share, and I had a mountain. That is a major understatement. It took me 11 hours to put these all in their albums, and yes, it feels amazing that it's done, but boy, oh boy, did it take some time. Luckily, hubby and I were just watching the V8s on the weekend, so that worked, not a problem whatsoever. So I was just watching the V8s, watching them race, and if you're not in Australia, we have supercar, what do they call it? Supercars, V8 supercars. And it's a race that I'm a bit of a rev head nut. I love all that sort of thing. I love fast cars and the smell of fuel and the burnt rubber. I love it. And so hubby and I, we both love it. We think it's really good. And we sat down and we were watching that while I was adding what can only be described as an insane amount of scrapbook layouts. I think there was something like 75, 75 or 95 layouts. It was insane. I apologize if you can hear my dog barking. My neighbours have their little boy in the backyard, and for some reason she thinks it's hilarious to bark at him every time he goes outside. So anyway, moving right along. So I don't make you watch me paint all these buttons, but, and as you know, I don't normally edit out my videos. I don't chop and change too much and take chunks out, but I knew this was going to be quite a repetitive process to do this, which my brain absolutely loves. I have to be honest with you. I love coming up with something like this, you know, or patterns or anything like that. And because it's repetitive, it's just so easy to do for me. Now, these are some plastic buttons that I had in my stash, and these are the mica powder mists that I made. If you have a look in my videos, you can see where I show you how to make that mist. Super simple. Now these, okay, so this was me today. So I did all of that the other day. This is me coming in with, no, I'm still on the other day actually. And I decided what I was going to do was trim one side of the buttons. And I did these on really thick cardstock. So it was a little bit of an effort. So again, I did skip over that because this video would have been 3 hours long of just recorded content. So I had to, one, I've sped it up 8 times. So if you get nauseous watching things going quite fast, I apologize for that. But I also, once I had that message about, can you show me what to do with buttons, I also felt that I needed to keep all the content in so you could see what I was doing. Now, these brown buttons, this is also hilarious. My oldest daughter challenged me to use these buttons, these brown wooden buttons. And I've got to be honest, she said to me the other week, she said, you've got to use them. I don't care what you do with them, but you need to use them in a video. And if I don't have subscribers challenge me, quite often my kids will throw me a challenge and they'll say, try and do this with it, mum, or try and do something with this particular, and it'll be a piece of ephemera that I have that's been laying around for ages, and they'll be like, right, you need to base a page around that. And it really does challenge me. Now, the watercolor paints that I'm using, I actually did take a photo. When I went to Officeworks the other day, I actually found the watercolors, the brands of the watercolors that I use. So I can tell you, if I can very quickly pull it up on my phone, and of course I cannot. I took a photo, I know I did, and then I took 700 photos of my daughter doing gymnastics-y things. So all I'm doing, this is just straight watercolor. I didn't do, okay, here we go. It is Micador, MICADOR paint colors. So that's the brand. I thought it was, no, I just told a lie. I apologize. This one is Semco brand, SEMCO, and the other watercolors that I used the other day, is actually the MICA. I don't know how to pronounce it. But these watercolors, they are they're quite pigmented for watercolors, bang for buck. They have a lot of pearlescent reflective mica in them, and they painted over these wooden buttons and it has stayed on there. It's just watercolor. I haven't put anything else on them except for the gold ones. I sprayed that with my mica spray that I made. So all of that considered, the buttons, I just let them dry, and the plastic buttons. Now, I was actually sort of doing a bit of a play myself, and I actually wanted to see if my homemade mica spray would stay attached to the plastic buttons. And you know what? It does. I let them sit and naturally dry. I didn't use a heat gun or anything on them, and it has stayed on the plastic, shiny plastic buttons. So I am really, really happy with the results of these sprays. I really am, honestly. So you can see what I'm doing there. All I've done is I've trimmed one side of the buttons. I've added a tiny strip of double-sided foam adhesive, and the side that the button that I trimmed around is facing inwards. I actually wanted, the reason I've painted so many strips is because I was going to go all the way around each photo, but then once I joined them together, I thought that was too much. So all I did was put a little bit down each side. So, and then what I did was I went along, that particular piece of tape was not on straight and it was doing my head in. So I had to put another piece, I had to peel it up, hoping I didn't wreck it, and it worked. Again, leave it in the process, because you guys have to know that no, I don't get it down straight every time. Most times I do, but not this time. Okay, so all I've used is just white American Crafts textured, why can I not say that? Struggling to speak tonight. It's Sunday night, okay? I've just had a big weekend. It was all about family this weekend. And obviously yesterday I spent a lot of time putting the photos in the albums. But I'm using the Distress Oxides just in the top right, top left and bottom right corners. And I'm using the Distress Oxides because I didn't want any shine to this at all. So I could have, and I just sort of very roughly blended them. Purely and simply because I know what the next step is going to be, and it's not, I really don't need a lot of colour in the corner or anything like that, because I only did that purely so it draws your attention towards the photos. Okay. So I cut out the title on my CRICUT, and I did an offset background, and that's what I'm actually colouring. So I'm doing it different to how I normally do it. Usually I leave the white on the back and colour the letters, and I ended up just doing it willy-nilly. I didn't sort of do the bottom half and the top half like I usually do. So I just did it a little bit differently this time. So this is my title, Cute as a Button, because she was very cute little baby. And what I'm doing here is just adding the white letters on top of the colour, because the majority of the background of my paper, my background cardstock is white. So I'm going to have the cardstock white, then the coloured background, my offset, and then the white lettering on top of that. And right at the very end, I do add a little bit of glimmer brush from Uniquely Creative, and I used the clear one. And I only put that on the white parts because The oxides are water reactive, and it doesn't matter if they're dry or not, they will still react with water or liquid of any description. So, okay, get the Cricut mat out of the way. All right, here is what I was doing this afternoon. This is really quick, but I'm going through with my Sharpie. So these are all the little buttonholes, right? You can see them in the close-up photos on my Facebook group. What I did is I went through and I did black dots with the Sharpie in all the spots that you would typically sew through, right? I went through with black. Purely, it wasn't going to stay black. I wanted to put the silver Posca pen. It's a metallic pen, but I didn't want that on white because then it just would have blended in. So I went through with the black. I did that first, then put the silver on top, and you can tell it looks separate. So that's a little trick. If you want to have a go with the metallic stuff, quite often the metallics stand out amazingly on black. So that's why I did the black Sharpie pen. So this is just purely to finish off the buttons. You know how you need to sew through them, or you need to do something through them. Well, that's what I thought anyway. But all the buttons that I put all over the page, I don't sew through those at all. I did consider doing it, but I think it'd be too much. I really do. So there's the title. So you can see how the colour's behind the white. Just a different way to do it. Something different. Glue down the photos. And now all I'm doing now is adding, so you can see in that little triangle dish, I have the tiniest buttons ever. Now, I've had those in my stash for so long. So I decided, as I've been doing with a lot of my stuff, I want to use it. What's the point? I've had those buttons for probably 15 years in my stash. What's the point of them sitting there? And I'm saying this to myself. Why is it there? Why haven't you used it? They're adorable. They're super cute. Why haven't you used them? So that's what I did. So here I'm just sprinkling them willy-nilly all over the place, and just to get these buttons all spread out. I stopped with the larger buttons to start with because I thought I can come back to them. If there's any extras that I need to put on, I'll do that right at the very end. So here I am, just quite honestly, just flipping them over and gluing them down. And when I'm using art glitter glue, when it dries, it's crystal clear. So it won't leave, if there's any splurging on the sides or anything like that, it'll be totally fine. So this is what I do for my page. You see my title. I was down to about six or seven of these buttons, and I thought, you know what, they're all going on here because I think it looks tell me what you think below, but I think it looks adorable. So here I am, just adding the glimmer brush, and it just adds a little bit more sparkle. I know I use metallic paints for lots of it, and here is the close-ups for you. Please, if you can, like and subscribe, and or share my page, share the things that you like, the videos that you like. And there's also in the description below, there is links to my Facebook group and my Instagram. I'm getting better with my Instagram. I've had to work out how to do it, but that's okay. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Thanks so much, guys. Chat to you soon. Bye.